Hello, I'm the Progressive Disciple, and I am going on a journey through the Bible, and I'm inviting you to join me. Today, we are continuing our study of Revelations, chapters 15 through 19. So far, there was a worship service with God, and only the slain lamb was found to be worthy of reading the scroll from God. As the slain lamb broke each seal, different plagues, earthquakes, and wars occurred. 144,000 people were marked with a seal. The seventh trumpet sounded, and more plagues occurred. When the seventh trumpet sounded, the dragon and the beasts arose. 3 angels were sent to proclaim the gospel and proclaimed Babylon was fallen and announced the punishment of those who worshiped the beast. And finally, in chapter 14, the earth was harvested. So in chapter 15, 7 angels were given 7 bowls with God's wrath for the final plagues. In Revelations chapter 15, verse 1, it says, I saw in heaven another great and marvelous sign, 7 angels with 7 last plagues, last because with them God's wrath is complete. This spoke to me because God's anger does not last forever. And when the first angel poured the first bowl, sores occurred on the bodies of the people who had the mark of the beast. When the second angel poured his bowl, the sea turned to blood, and everything in the sea died. When the third bowl was poured, the rivers and all the springs turned to blood. The fourth bowl allowed the sun to scorch the people, and the people cursed God and refused to repent and glorify him. The fifth bowl brought about darkness, and the people still did not repent. The sixth bowl dried up the Euphrates to allow the kings of the east to cross. 3 spirits came out of the mouth of the dragon, the Antichrist, and the false prophet to the kings to gather them for battle. They gathered in a place called Armageddon. The 7th bowl is poured, and a voice says, It is done. And it brings lightning and a huge earthquake and large hailstones. As it says in Revelation 16, verses 17 through 21. The 7th angel poured out his bowl into the air, and out of the temple came a loud voice from the throne, saying, It is done. Then there came flashes of lightning, ramblings, peals of thunder, and severe earthquakes. No earthquake like it has ever occurred since mankind has been on earth. So tremendous was the quake. The great city split into 3 parts, and the city of the nations collapsed. God remembered Babylon the Great and gave her the cup filled with the wine of fury of his wrath. Every island fled away, and the mountains could not be found. From the sky, huge hailstones, each weighing about 100 pounds, fell on the people. And they cursed God on the account of the plagues of hail, because the plagues were so terrible. These verses say to me that there will be justice for the wrong that is done in the world. One of the angels shows John the whore of Babylon. She rides the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. She is drunk with the blood of God's people. The 7 heads are explained as 7 hills and 7 kings. The 10 horns are explained as 10 future kings that will give power to the beast. They wage war against the Lamb, but they will lose. The beast will hate the whore, and will ruin her, stripping her naked in eating her flesh, and they burn her with fire. The woman is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. In Revelations 17, verses 15 through 18, it says, Then the angel said to me, The waters you saw where the prostitute sits are people, multitudes, nations, and languages. The beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire, for God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to hand over to the beast the royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city and rules over the kings of the earth. So, what does this mean? Some say the city is Rome. Some say the city is Jerusalem. And it has been explained that it is the pull of Rome versus Jerusalem in a spiritual battle. The reformers in the early 15th century thought this referred to the Catholic Church. In chapter 18, there is a lament over Babylon. A warning is given to flee the city or to suffer her sins and plagues. Kings, merchants, and sea captains will mourn her downfall. In Revelations chapter 18, verses 21 through 24, it says, Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea and said, With such violence the great city Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again. The music of harps and musicians, pipers, and trumpets will never be heard in you again. No worker of any trade will ever be found in you again. The sound of a millstone will never be heard in you again. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. The voice of a bridegroom and bride will never be heard in you again. Your merchants and the world's important people, by your magic spells, all the nations were led astray. In her was found the blood of prophets and of God's holy people, of all whom had been slaughtered on the earth. I think of the infrastructure, culture, the way of life that is destroyed when a city or a government is radically changed. I see the fall of the Soviet Union and the defeat of Germany in both World War I and World War II, and the defeat of the South during the Civil War. Chapter 19 contrasts to chapter 18 in that it rejoices over Babylon's fall. There will be praise from the 24 angels and the 4 living creatures. I think of the rejoicing from the positive aspects that can come from radical change, like the Jewish people who were saved from the Nazis, or slaves who were freed in the Civil War. A heavenly warrior comes, who is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and he defeats and captures the beasts and the false prophets, and they are thrown into the lake of fire. This is seen as the return of Jesus as a warrior king. As it says in Revelations 19, verses 19 through 21, Then I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to wage war against the rider on the horse and his armies. But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. And these signs had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The 2 of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. The rest were killed with the sword coming out of the mouth of the rider on the horse. and all the birds gorged themselves on their flesh. When I covered Revelations, I gave several interpretations of it. One was the interpretation of that it was written for the times that it took place in. Others believed it was written for future events, but those events had come to pass. Others believed that Revelations was written for a future time with events that have yet to come to pass. And still others see this symbolically as something that happens from time to time. So where do I stand on this? I guess I fall mostly that Revelations was written for the times that John lived in. I also look at Revelations symbolically, for the themes seem to come up over and over again. But I did study all possible meanings, well, as much as I could. Let's face it, it's kind of fun to look at our political rivals and try to make them into the Antichrist. After I recorded my last video, I went to Gateway O&A Convocation. I consider myself an ally of the LGBTQ community and wanted to learn more to help. In one of the classes, I was telling somebody how disappointed I was with Revelations. It really wasn't speaking to me. And then I realized, straight white male, how easy it is to ignore Revelations. I don't feel persecuted at all. But the people in John's time do feel persecuted. At that point in time, Rome started to take notice of Christians. They had what they felt was a reasonable position. You could worship any god or gods you wanted, as long as you also worshiped the state gods. Christians refused to do this. And when I was at Convocation, I noticed a lot of people who were also being persecuted. Revelations is a very dark book with predictions of horrible plagues, and yet, to people who were being persecuted, it was a hopeful book. It was a book that told them that times will change, times will get better. And so I think it is very important for us to study Revelations and to give it good thought. And so this wraps up chapters 15 through 19 of Revelations. Only 3 more chapters to go. I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel and to like this video and to comment. I would love to be able to read what you think of this. I am the Progressive Disciple, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.